Imagine lying in the arms of the person you love most, feeling safe, loved, wanted. And then, in the middle of your most intimate moment, they say a name that isn't yours, a name that shakes your world to its core. That's what happened to me. My husband, the man I built my life with, called me by his best friend's name while making love to me. I tried to ignore it, but deep down, I knew. Something was wrong. And when I started digging, I uncovered a truth so painful, so life-shattering, that I wish I had never known. I wasn't always this broken. In fact, I thought I had the perfect love story. My husband, Daniel, was my world. He was charming, kind, and made me feel like the luckiest woman alive. We had been together for 6 years, married for 5, and though we had our share of fights, I never once doubted our love. From the moment we met, he made me feel special. He brought me flowers for no reason. He listened when I spoke, and he always told me I was the love of his life. And I believed him. But if I had known what was coming, I would have never walked down that aisle. Then there was Ryan, Daniel's best friend since childhood. They had been inseparable since they were kids. Ryan was always around, always. At first, I didn't think much of it. I mean, isn't it a good thing for a man to have strong friendships? I even liked Ryan. He was funny, easy to talk to, and seemed to genuinely care about our marriage. But looking back, I see the red flags I ignored, the little things that should have made me pause. That night started like any other. A romantic dinner, soft music, laughter. He kissed me, whispered sweet words in my ear, and then, right in the middle of it all, he moaned Ryan's name. My whole body went cold. My heart pounded in my chest. For a moment, I thought I imagined it, but I knew what I had heard. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to scream. But instead I stayed silent, pretended I didn't hear it. But that moment planted a seed of doubt that would soon grow into a nightmare. After that night, something inside me changed. I started watching him more closely, the way he talked, the way he acted. And the more I watched, the more I realized something was off. He was distant, distracted. He'd smile at me, but it never reached his eyes. He'd touch me, but it felt different. And worst of all, he was always on his phone. I had never checked his phone before. I believed in trust. But one night, when he fell asleep, I picked it up. My hands were shaking as I opened his messages. And what I found changed my life forever. I miss you, man. I can't wait to be with you again. Last night, I almost slipped up. Just a little longer, and we'll figure this out. My whole body went numb. I wanted to scream, to wake him up. But instead, I just sat there, staring at the screen, as my whole world collapsed around me. One evening, as I sat alone in my bedroom, drowning in my pain, my phone rang. It was Ryan. My hands trembled as I answered. "I need to see you," he said. "There's something you don't know." Elle agreed to meet him, my heart racing. What more could he possibly say? But nothing, absolutely nothing could have prepared me for what he revealed that night. "Daniel didn't betray you," Ryan said, his voice breaking. "He was protecting you." I stared at him, confused. Protecting me? From what? And then he told me everything. Daniel had been keeping a secret, but it wasn't what I thought. It wasn't an affair. It wasn't love. It was fear. Ryan had been in trouble, serious trouble. He had gotten involved with dangerous people, people who wouldn't hesitate to hurt him. Daniel had been helping him, covering for him, doing whatever it took to keep him safe. But those people had been watching, listening. Daniel knew they could be tapping his phone, tracking his messages. So he created a fake narrative, a cover-up. He made it seem like he and Ryan were in a secret relationship, so if anyone ever found out about their messages, they wouldn't dig deeper. They wouldn't realize the truth that Ryan was running from people who wanted him dead. I couldn't breathe. My world spun around me. But why? Why did he say your name that night? Whispered. Ryan hesitated. Then he looked me in the eye and said, because that night, he had just gotten a call, a warning. He was terrified that I was about to be killed. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor. I had spent weeks hating my husband, believing he had betrayed me. But in reality, he had been trying to save his best friend's life. Tears streamed down my face. I had let my doubts, my insecurities, my fears blind me to the truth. Daniel had been distant, not because he didn't love me, but because he was carrying a burden too heavy to share. After Ryan's confession, I sat there, trying to process everything. My heart wanted to believe him. It wanted to believe that Daniel was just protecting his best friend. But my mind wasn't convinced. Something didn't add up. If Daniel was only covering for Ryan, why did he moan his name while making love to me? That wasn't just fear. That wasn't just stress. That was something intimate. I didn't say anything to Ryan. I just nodded, thanked him for telling me the truth, and left. But deep down, my gut was screaming at me. Something was still wrong. That night, I went home and acted like everything was fine. I let Daniel hold me, kiss me, whisper that he loved me. And for the first time, I realized how good of a liar he really was. So I decided to test him. Over the next few weeks, I acted like the perfect wife. I stopped questioning him. I stopped snooping through his phone. I stopped acting suspicious. And the moment he let his guard down, I caught him. One evening, I pretended to go visit my sister for the weekend. I kissed him goodbye, packed a bag, and left. But I didn't actually leave town. I parked my car a few streets away and waited. Hours passed. And then, at exactly 11:45 p.m., I saw Ryan's car pull into my driveway. I couldn't breathe. My heart slammed against my chest as I watched my husband open the door and let Ryan inside. I don't remember how long I sat there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. But when I finally worked up the courage, I walked to the house, pushed open the door, and saw something that shattered my soul. There they were, my husband and his best friend, not in danger, not in fear, not running from criminals, but in each other's arms, kissing. I stood in the doorway, my whole body trembling. My mind refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Daniel, Ryan, locked in each other's arms, kissing. The two men who had spent weeks, months, years convincing me that I was crazy for ever suspecting anything. Ryan was the first to react. He jumped back like he had been electrocuted. His face turned pale as he wiped his mouth like it could erase what I had just seen. But Daniel? He just stood there, frozen, silent. That silence was the loudest confession. For a few seconds, no one spoke. My breathing was shallow. My heart was racing so fast I thought I'd pass out. But then, Ryan did something that made my blood boil. He laughed, a nervous, forced chuckle, and then he said the dumbest thing I had ever heard. "It's not what you think." I blinked. Not what I think? I took a step forward, my hands clenching into fists. "Oh? So what exactly am I seeing, Ryan?" His eyes darted to Daniel like he was searching for backup. But Daniel was still frozen, still silent. Ryan swallowed hard and suddenly switched into full panic mode. "Listen to me, please. We were acting. This was all a setup." I let out a dry laugh. A setup for what exactly? Ryan ran a hand through his hair, his whole body shaking. "You don't understand. The people who are after me, they could be watching. We had to make it look real." I stared at him, disgusted. "You mean to tell me you were sucking my husband's face off as part of some grand undercover mission?" Ryan nodded so fast it almost looked like he believed his own lie. But then I turned to Daniel. And what did my lying, cheating husband have to say? Nothing. He just stood there, his lips parted, his breathing heavy, guilty as hell. I took another step forward. Daniel, say something. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, then finally whispered, I'm sorry. That was it. No explanation, no defense, just, I'm sorry. Ryan's face twisted in frustration. Daniel, say something. Tell her the truth. Daniel lowered his head. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't a setup. This wasn't an act. This was the truth they had been hiding from me for years. I had given my life, my love, my trust to a man who never truly wanted me. I had been used. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled. Ryan's face lit up in relief, thinking I believed him. See? I knew you'd understand. I chuckled. Oh, I do. In fact, I understand everything now. And then, with one swift move, I pulled out my phone and hit play. The video started playing loud and clear. Their voices, their laughter, their confessions. Because what they didn't know was that I had been recording the entire conversation. Ryan's face turned white. What the hell is that? I smirked. Evidence. Daniel finally snapped out of his trance. Wait, no, please. Too late. I sent the recording to everyone. His family, his friends, his boss, and in less than 10 minutes, both of their phones started blowing up with calls and messages. Ryan grabbed his hair. Oh my God, what did you do? I shrugged. Nothing much. Just made sure the whole world knows the truth. Daniel dropped to his knees. Broke. Destroyed. Please don't do this! I kneeled down beside him, looked him dead in the eye, and whispered, I'm just getting started. They had underestimated me, and I was about to show them exactly what happens when you betray a woman who gave you everything.